I'm going to teach you guys about the Renaissance today. I'll go through some of the notes here, and you can just kind of follow along, fill in the blanks on the paper I gave you as we go. Okay, so just FYI, there's three pretty famous um, pieces of art here. So we got right here, this is the Mona Lisa. This was done by Da Vinci. This one also done by Da Vinci. This is The Last Supper. And then this one is a sculpture called the David that was done by Michelangelo. All right, here we go. So the Italian Renaissance. So the word Renaissance means rebirth. It's of the ancient Greek and the Roman cultures. So it is going to start in Italy. And we are going to see a revival of the ancient Greek and Roman cultures through texts that, like we talked about before, um, the Europeans got from the Muslims as well as the Carolingian monks. So the Italian Renaissance spread to the rest of Europe between the years 1350 and 1550, and during this time, a secular or worldly viewpoint developed. So secularism is like it's more like of this world where it's just not religious. Okay, so it doesn't really have to do with God. And then urban society is going to increase wealth, especially in northern Italy, which is where the Renaissance is going to begin. Because remember, we talked about we're going to increase trade from the Middle East, and especially the Italian cities of Venice and Genoa are going to gain a lot of that trade and a lot of that wealth. And so, as a way to kind of display wealth, what we're going to start to see is people are going to commission paintings like the Mona Lisa, which you see right here, and they're going to commission paintings to kind of show off that wealth. All right. So the Renaissance was also an age when the power of the church is going to decline. So remember, once again, after the Crusades, the power of the church starts to decline. People are going to start to be more. They're going to start to be more concerned about what's going on in this world than how to get to the next. So society's going to start to recover from the plagues. So we'll talk about the Black Plagues and then other instabilities of the Middle Ages. But part of this recovery is going to be in the interest in the ancient Greek and Roman cultures. So, like I said, they're going to start to look at manuscripts and different texts from the ancient Greeks and the Romans, and they're going to start to try to learn from those. So, a new view of human beings that emphasize individual ability and worth will emerge in the Renaissance. So what that means is we're going to start to see people being able to move up in society. Okay, so being well rounded, being educated is going to be very important. So, one of these people is this guy right here. This was a self portrait that Da Vinci had done. So, that's Leonardo da Vinci. So, he was a painter, obviously. He was a sculptor, he was an architect, he was an inventor, and he was a mathematician. Okay. So the upper classes were more affected by the Italian Renaissance than the lower classes. So the upper classes are going to be the ones who are funding these projects. So we're going to see in this here, this one is another one done by Da Vinci. This is called Lady with an Airman. And this one done down here, this was done by Raphael. This is called the School of Athens. Okay, so this has a lot of people from ancient Greek. It was kind of like a who's who of ancient Greece down here. And then right in the middle, we have Aristotle and Plato are kind of the center of the whole thing there. So we're going to see churches, wealthy homes, public buildings are going to display this art, and they're going to celebrate the human body, classical antiquity, and then religious and secular themes as well. So obviously these would both be examples of secular themes, as neither are religious. Okay. All right, so the Italian states. So obviously, like I said, the Renaissance is going to start in northern Italy. So we're going to see the city states of Milan, Venice, and Florence are going to be very important in this. So here's Milan right here. We've got Venice over here, and then we have Florence right here. Genoa is going to also play a role. Remember, we talked about them with trade. You can see Genoa and Venice are both on the sea there. But these three are going to be the big players during the Renaissance. And so, like I said, they're going to start to prosper from that trade with the Byzantines. Okay, remember that's the Eastern Roman Empire, the Islamic, and then the Mediterranean civilizations. And they're going to start to set up trading centers in the East. They did this during the Crusades. Remember, we talked about the Crusader states, and they'll exchange goods with merchants in England and even in the Netherlands. So what they'll do is they'll send ships around through Spain. You can't really see it on this map, but they'll send it around through Spain and then go up and be with those trade with those folks in Northern Europe. All right. So, talk about Milan first. So, the wealthy city of Milan was located in the north at the crossroads of the main trade routes from the Italian coastal cities to the Alpine passes. So, you can see right here in this map here, this is where Milan is located. So, the city state of Milan is oops, went too far. My bad. So, the city state of Milan is this right here. Um, and so after the last Visconti family ruler died, in 1447, Francisco Sforza, that's this guy right here, is going to conquer the city with a band of mercenaries. So mercenaries are soldiers for hire. And then, even though he's not noble, he's going to make himself a duke, and he's going to rule Milan with absolute power. And he was a very militaristic kind of guy. So you're going to see a lot of that play out as we go through the Renaissance. All right, now we'll talk about this. So Venice was a link between Asia and Western Europe, and it was a major trading center. So traders from all over the world came to Venice, and a small group of wealthy merchants is going to run the city to serve their interests. Okay, so they were actually an oligarchy. And so they basically got together, the wealthy merchants got together, and then they made decisions basically that benefited them, that didn't necessarily benefit all people. But there was a lot of money to go around, so people weren't complaining too much. But due to its trade empire, Venice will become an international power. And then, so Venice is this purple one right here. And then we're going to talk about Florence, okay, which is over here. And so Florence dominated the Tuscany region. And in 1434, Cosimo de' Medici will take control of Florence, and he's going to start the Medici family, is going to be the ruling family of Florence for many years. His grandson Lorenzo, who will be known as Lorenzo the Magnificent, he will dominate Florence when it was the cultural center of Italy, and this is when Da Vinci is when he's painting and doing his things is when Lorenzo was in charge. Okay. Okay, so attracted by Italy's riches, so Charles VIII of France is going to lead an army of 30,000 men into Italy in 1494. And he will occupy Naples in the south. And I'm just going to go back here real quick and show you Naples is right down in this region here. Okay, it's down in that southern region. So the northern Italian states will go to Spain and ask them for help. And then for the next 30 years, France and Spain are going to be fighting wars in Italy. And so they're basically making Italy their battleground. Okay. So in 1527, thousands of Spanish troops, along with mercenaries, will arrive at Rome. Now, once they get there, they hadn't been paid for a while. And so their leader just said, you know what, just sack Rome, take what you can, and that'll be your pay. And so the soldiers went nuts in a frenzy of bloodshed and looting. Okay, so they just took whatever they want. They killed people. They didn't really care. And so the authorities had to go in and establish order. But it's this sacking of Rome that's going to end the wars. And it's going to leave Spain as going to become a very dominant force in Italy as a result of this. Okay, Machiavelli. There he is right there. There's his book, The Prince. So, The Prince by Niccolo Machiavelli. It's one of the most influential works on political power in the Western world, and it basically talks about how to get and keep political power. And so Machiavelli is kind of very negative when he talks about power. He's very ruthless, really. But previous authors had stressed that princes, when we say princes, we mean rulers. Okay, rulers should be ethical and follow Christian principles. Well, Machiavelli goes the total opposite way. He says that the prince's attitude or the ruler's attitude toward power should be based on understanding that human nature is self-interested. That humans are actually selfish and will do whatever they can to get ahead. And so, because everybody else is going to be selfish, the prince therefore should also be selfish. So he says that the prince should not act necessarily on moral principles, but on behalf of the interests of the state. And so his views are going to influence political leaders for several centuries and up into the 20th century. So it's kind of the idea that the state is more important than the individual, and this kind of gets into the idea of fascism, where the state is glorified above the individual, and the individual liberties don't really matter that much. Okay, so he also coined the phrase, it's for a ruler, it's better to be feared than to be loved, because if you're feared, people aren't going to defy you. But if you're loved, even though you're loved, people are more likely to defy you if they're not scared of you. Okay, so that's Machiavelli, and he's going to influence, like I said, kings and all the way up into the 20th century. All right, so the development of humanism. So humanism was based on the study of the classics. So we're talking the classics. We're talking about the ancient Greeks and Romans, and so we're studying grammar, rhetoric, poetry, moral philosophy, and history. And Petrarch, that's this handsome guy right here. Petrarch, he was the father of Italian Renaissance humanism, and he basically looked for forgotten manuscripts and found some. Okay, and he described the intellectual life as one of solitude. So he felt that um, if you're going to truly like enhance yourself intellectually, you're going to do it by studying on your own. You're probably not going to have much of a life and things like that. But he believed that intellectuals actually had a duty to live an active civic life. So what that means is they need to be public servants. So they should be the ones who are politicians and running for office and things like that. And then to put their study of the humanities to the state service. So because they know more, they're more intellectual, they know more, that the humanities, um, they can put that to basically to work to make life better for everybody in the state. Now, humanists mostly used Latin, but other writers wrote in whatever their vernacular was. So, vernacular is whatever language we speak. Okay, so for example, we speak English, that is our vernacular. So, for example, Dante, who is Italian, he wrote the Divine Comedy, that's this guy right here. That was written in Italian. And then Geoffrey Chaucer, who was English, wrote the Canterbury Tales. Okay. So the humanist movement had a profound effect on education, obviously. So education became much more secular, and humanists opened their own schools even, and they believed that liberal studies could help humans to reach their full potential. So this is why we see the growth of universities during this time period. So history, philosophy, rhetoric, grammar, poetry, mathematics, astronomy, and music are all things that are going to be studied, but they also emphasized a physical education because they felt that your body should not your mind and body should be working together. Okay. Now, very few females are going to be educated, and those who did learned the classics and a little bit of history, but no mathematics, no rhetoric, no nothing like that, because girls were supposed to learn about religion, and so they could be good Christian ladies. Okay. All right. Well, that's all I have for you guys today. I hope you enjoy this fun education about the Renaissance, and you guys have a great day. Bye.